Hello everyone, my name is ALKRTY. Today I will give you a short presentation on atrocity crimes. Today our presentation is going to be about war crimes. In this presentation we will be talking to you about war crimes, give you background about the war crimes, the definition of war crime according to the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court, and then we'll move to an element of the crimes or war crimes. And the last slide is going to be about the just a resource about the in terms of war crimes. Okay, if you are ready, just let's get started. You can see here and this image here, it reflects the war crime. The first image here, it reflects the crimes here in Syria just recently, the ongoing civil war, what they call it, a internal armed conflict here in Syria. And the second image here above that image here just shows that person who is the currently the president of Sudan. He is being accused by the ICC, International Criminal Court, for he committed a serious crimes, including war crime. Therefore, he should be arrested and he should be forced to stand before the International Criminal Court. And this here, beside that image, this is an old image from the World War II, I believe. And they were talking about the also these people here, the Nazis had been committed a very, very serious crime, including war crimes. And this image just reflects how important the people or the international community has to address these problems and to work together to make the people who commit this crime to be accountable before the court. Okay, the second slide here is just about the background of the war crimes. It says here, even though the prohibition of certain behavior in the conduct of armed conflict can be traced back many centuries, the concept of war crimes developed particularly at the end of the 19th century and beginning of the and at the beginning of the 20th centuries, when international humanitarian law, also known as the law of armed conflict, was codified. This is how the term of war crime being used and identified. The Hague Convention, adopted in 1899 and 1907, focused on the prohibition to warning parties, the parties that are fighting, to use certain means and method of warfare. So, and after that, several other related treaties have been adopted since then. In contrast, the Geneva Convention of 1864 and the subsequent Geneva Convention, notably the 1949 Geneva Convention and the 1977 additional protocols, focus on protection of person not or no longer taking a party in hostilities, even if he or she used to be a party hostilities, but he can get or she can get a protection uh, as long as long the person not or no longer taking a part in the in hostility. This is another image here, just shows how horrific and how the atrocity crime can affect the the civilians. You know, here as you can see, the mother with her kids are being forced to display to move or to forced to leave their own countries or hometown to somewhere else more safer. And here in this image here, besides that image here this image shows the bodies of the civilian population being targeted by the parties of the war, and they shouldn't be targeted. All right, we continue talking about the war crimes background, and it says here both Hague law and Geneva law identifies several of the violation of its norms, though not all, as war crimes. However, there is no one single document in international law that codifies all war crimes. Lists of war crimes can be found in both international humanitarian law and international criminal law treaties, as well as in international customary law. The 1949 Geneva Convention have been ratified by all member states of the United Nations. So all the states around the world have been ratified this Geneva Convention 1949, while the additional protocols and other international humanitarian law treaties have not yet reached the same level of acceptance. Still in the background of war crime, however, many of the rules contained in these treaties have been considered as part of customary law, and as such are binding on all states and other parties to the conflict, whether or not states have ratified the treaties themselves. In addition, many rules of customary international law apply in both international and non-international armed conflict, expanding in this way the protection afforded in non-international armed conflict, which are regulated only by Common Article 3 of the 4 Geneva Convention and additional protocols 2. So right now here we're going to talk to you about the definition of the war crimes according to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Articles 8 of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court stated that the court shall have jurisdiction in respect of war crime, in particular when committed as part of a plan or policy or as part of a large-scale commission of such crime. For the purpose of the statute, war crime means grave breach of Geneva Convention of the 12th August 1949, namely any of the following act against a person or property protected under the provision of the relevant Geneva Convention. So before we tell you about the property and people that being protected by the 12th August 1949, we should go through this image. Here is it shows about this is all this image is about the atrocity crime, in particular war crime, as you can see here on in all this image here, number from the bottom here up to the top, across here you can see bodies lies here, and you can see people being their freedom being taken away, and you can see just people here are suffering. This is a common thing between them, are suffering everywhere because of the atrocity crime, in particular war crimes. Okay, let's move forward. We're still there with the definition. So this is willful killing, torture, or inhuman treatment, including biological experiment, willfully causing great suffering or serious injury to body or health, extensive destruction and appropriation of property not justified by military necessity and carried out unlawfully and wantonly. Compelling a prisoner of war or others protected person to severe in the force of a hostile power, willfully depriving a prisoner of war or others protected person of the right of fair and real trial, unlawful deprivation or deportation or transfer or unlawful confinement. And the last, and not the other one, is the taking of hostage. All this act is reflect war crimes. Also, other serious violation of law and customs applicable in international armed conflict within the established framework of international law, namely any of the following act. Intentionally directing attack against the civilian population as such, or against individual civilians not taking direct part in the hostilities. Intentionally directing a attack against civilian objects, that is, objects which are not military objectives. Intentionally directing attack against a personal installations, materials, unit, or a vehicles involved in the humanitarian assistance or peacekeeping mission in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations, as long as they are entitled to the protection given to civilian or civilians or civilian objects under the international law of armed conflict. Intentionally launching an attack in the knowledge that such attacks will cause incidental loss of life or injury to civilian or damage to civilian object, or widespread, long-term and severe damage to the natural environment, which would be clearly excessive in relation to the concrete and direct overall military advantage anti-Statute. Also, the list is still going. So the other one is the attacking or bombarding the by whatever means town, village, dwelling, or building which are undefended and which are not military objective. Killing or wounding a combatant who having laid down his arm or having no longer means of defense has surrendered at discretion. Making improper use of flag of truce, of the flag or the military in signing and uniform of the enemy or the United Nations as well as the distinctive emblems of the Geneva Convention, resulting in death or serious personal injury. The transfer, directly or indirectly, by occupying power of part of its own civilian population into the territory it occupies, or the deportation or transfer of all or a part of the population of occupying territory with or outside the territory. Intentionally directed attack against building dedicated to religions, education, art, science, or charitable purpose. Historic momentum, hospitals and places where the sick and wounded are collected, provided they are not military objective. Uh, Also subjecting persons who are in the power of adverse party to physical mutilation, or to a medical or science experiment of any kind, which are neither justified by the medical or dental or hospital treatment of the person concerned, nor carried out his or her interest, and which cause death to or seriously endanger the health of such person or persons. Killing or wounding treacherously individuals belong to the hostile nation or army, declaring that no quarter will be given, destroying or seizing the enemy properties unless such destruction or seizures, seizures be imperatively demanded by the necessities of wars, declaring abolish, suspending, or indemnifiable in a court of law that right and action of the national of the hostile party, compelling the national of the hostile party to take part in the operation of war directed against their own country, even if they were in the belong or the belligerent service before the commencement of the war. Bringing a town or place even when taken by assault, employing poison or poisoned weapons, employing a sophisticating poisonous or the others gases and all analogous liquid materials or devices, employing pollet which expand or flatten easily in the human body, such as pollet with a hard involved, which does not entire cover the core, or is a pierced with incisions, employing weapons, projectiles, and materials and methods of war which are of the natural to cause superfluous injury or unnecessary suffering, or which are inherently indiscriminate in violation of the international of armed conflict, provided that such weapons, projectiles, and materials and methods of warfare are the subject of the comprehensive prohibition and are included in an annex to this statute by any by any committing outrage upon personal dignity, in particular, humiliating and degrading treatment. Committing rape, sexual slavery, enforced prostitution, forced pregnancy as defined in Article 7, paragraph 2F. Enforced sterilization or any other form of sexual violence, also constituting grave breach of Geneva Convention. Utilizing the presence of a civilian or others protected person to render certain areas of military force immune from military operations. Intentionally directed attack against building materials, medical unit, and transport, and person using the distinctive emblems of the Geneva Convention in conformity with the international law. Intentionally using starvation of civilians as method of warfare by depriving them of objects indispensable their survivals, including willfully impeding relief supplies was provided for under the Geneva Convention, conspiring or enlisting children under the age of 15 years into the national armed force, or using them to participate actively in hostilities. Um, in the case of an armed conflict, not of the international character, seriously violation of the Article 3 common to the 4 Geneva Convention of 12 August 1949, namely any of the following act committed against person, excuse me, taking no activities part in the hostility, including members of the armed forces who have laid down their arms, and those placed horse decomposed by sickness, wound, detention, or any other causes, violence to life and person, in particular murder of all kind, mutilation, cruel treatment, and torture, committing outrage upon personal dignity, in particular humiliating and degrading treatment, taking of hostage, the passing of sentences, and the carrying out of execution without previous judgment pronounced by regular constituted court, affording all judicials granted which are generally recognized as indispensable. And paragraph 2 C applies to armed conflict not of an international character, and thus does not apply to situation of internal disturbance and tension, such as riot, isolated and uh, subpodic act of violence or other act of similar nature. Other serious violation of the laws and customs applicable in armed conflict not of an international character within the established framework of the international law, namely any of the following acts: intentionally directing attack against the civilian population as such, or against individual civilian not taking directly part in hostilities; intentionally directing attacks against building materials, medical unit, and transport, and personnel using the distinctive emblems of the Geneva Convention in conformity with international law. Intentionally directed attack against person, installation, materials, unit, or vehicle involved in humanitarian assistance or peacekeeping mission in accordance with the uh, Charter of the United Nations, as long as they are entitled to the protection given to civilian or civilian objects under the international law of the um, international law. So intentionally directed attack against building um, dedicated to religions, education, arts, science, or charitable purpose, historic monument, hospitals, and places where the sick and wounded are collected, provided they are not military objective. And also conspiration or enlisting children under the age of 15. We went through this one here. And the last one is declaring that no quota will be given, which is reflect war crimes. Um, Subjecting persons who are in the power of another part to the conflict to physical mutilation or medical or science experiment of any kind, which are neither justified by the medical, dental, or hospital treatment of the person concerned, nor carried out in his or in her interest, and which cause death to or serious endanger the health of such person or persons. Destroying or seizing the property of any adversary unless such destruction or seizures be imperatively demanded by the necessity of the conflict. So the party has to have the justified by their action, as it says here in paragraph 2e, applies to armed conflicts not of the international charter character, and this does not apply to a situation of internal disturbance, as you know we went through, such as riot or something like that. So in paragraph E, shall affect the responsibility of government to, this one shall affect the responsibility of government to maintain or re-establish law and order in the state of the defend the unity of and territorial integrity of the state by all legitimate means. Okay, we come to the topic. The part or the head of the element of crimes, or the element of crime or crimes. It says war crimes are those violations of international humanitarian law. It's just basically that an account the individual criminal responsibility under the international law. As a result, and a contrast to crimes of genocide and criminal against humanity, war crime must always take place in the context of armed conflicts. This is the big difference between war crime and genocide and crime against humanity. So either international or a non-international conflict. What constitutes a war crime may differ depending on whether an armed conflict is international or not international. For example, Article 8 of the Rome Statute categorizes the war crimes as the following. As follows. So the grave breach of 1949 Geneva Convention related to international armed conflicts, other serious violation of the law and customs applicable in international armed conflict, serious violation of Article 3 common to the 1949 Geneva Convention related to armed conflict not of the international character, other serious violation of the law and customs applicable in armed conflict not of the of an international character. From more substantive perspective, war crime could be divided into war crime against person requiring a particular protection, and number B is war crime against those providing humanitarian assistance and peacekeeping operation, war crime against property and others' rights, prohibited method welfares and prohibited means of welfare. Some examples of prohibition of prohibited acts include murder, mutilation, cruel treatment, and torture, taking of hostage, intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population, intentionally directing attacks against buildings dedicated to religions, education, art, science, or charitable purpose, historical monument, or hospitals, ranging rape, sexual slavery, forced pregnancy, or any other form of sexual violence, conspiring or enlisting children under the age of 15 into armed force or group, or using them to participate actively in hostilities. This is just basic of the war crime element. Also, war crime contains two main elements. The first one is a contextual element. The conduct took place in the context of and was associated with the international or non-international armed conflicts. A mental element, intent, and you have knowledge both with the regard to the individual act, the contextual element. In contrast, to genocide and crime against humanity, war crime can be committed against a diversity of victims, either combatants or non-combatants, depending on the type of crime. In international armed conflict, victims including wounded and sick members of armed force in the field and the sea, prisoners of war and civilian persons. In the case of non-international armed conflict, protection is afforded to the person taking no active part in the hostility, including members of armed force who have laid down their arms, and those placed horse decomposed by sickness, wounded, detention, or any other cause. In both types of conflicts, protection is also afforded to medical and religious personnel, humanitarian workers, and civilian or civil defense staff. Okay, we come to the end of this topic, which was about the war crimes under the heading of atrocity crimes. So there is one topic left under this topic, which is the atrocity crime. So we talked to you about the genocide. We talked to you about crime against humanity and war crimes, and there is one left, which is a ethnic cleansing. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you. Before I let you go, here there is resource. So this link about the tells you everything about war crimes. If you're interested to gain more information about this topic, please just click on this link and you will get more information about war crimes. Thank you again, and we'll see you sometime very soon. Bye for now.